We're trading. We're trading pot stocks. We're trading. Yo, Miss Trade, man. It's Market Vitals. Hey, do me a favor if you're watching this right now, please share it. Retweet it. Don't fucking like it. Retweet it. Liking it does us no good. Retweet this shit. And well, let's have a conversation about lots of things. Matt, take it away for a second while I come back to the studio.
Hey, Bob. What a day, huh? Thirsty Thursday. Markets are down again. Is this 2 days in it? Well, we rallied yesterday late in the day, and then which was again the typical by the midday low, and the machine got turned on, and we went from 38.96 in the SPOOs all the way up to 36 or so. By the time the market closed, they squeezed them. All the weak holders got out at the close and took it up the whole day. And if you got short that close, you're doing pretty well today. It's down another %. So it's pretty quiet.
Yeah, it seems to me something is afoot.
Something is definitely afoot. There's definitely footprints showing that there's some weakness, continued weakness, probably building in this market. This could be 3 days red in a row on the S&P. So we haven't seen that in a while. We've had, we had a little sell-off in January that looked like it might be the start of something, and that didn't really amount to much. So the trend is still up, Bob, in the longer-term daily charts, but it feels, as we've been talking about, there's a lot of divergences piling up in this market across, different things from different asset classes. And let's talk about that a little bit. How, you just said this before we came on. How many asset classes, like how much money is just sloshing around the world right now?
I remember back in the day on the floor when the Merck, when they'd launch a new symbol, right? There was only a certain amount of people on the trading floor, and you needed people in the pit for price discovery. And they used to print badges, and when they first launched the S&P 500, when it first launched, they're like, please give us 10 minutes of your time. Come from the cattle pit, come from anywhere that you are, and stand in this pit for 10 minutes. Allow for some price discovery to happen. It's crazy. It's unbelievable the amount of symbols and the amount of money washing around to support all of these tradable symbols. It's frankly, it's almost incomprehensible. The amount of symbols available to trade.
Well, and again, between Forex, between alt currencies, Bitcoin, Litecoin, etc. Obviously, the bazillion stocks that are listed in the U.S., Toronto, Vancouver, Euro next, right? And by the way, I did see the other yesterday that London is no longer the financial capital of the Euro land. It is now back to the Netherlands. They're trading more volume, there through their exchanges than London. So, congratulations again to Boris Johnson and his failed acceptance.
Hey, Brian Rose, baby, Brian Rose for mayor, and then can you have he's a citizen now. He can become prime minister.
I mean, it's unbelievable, but he's absolutely killed that country. He has absolutely killed that country. They voted for Brexit and he canceled it. So, again, we're in such a tyrannical stage worldwide, Bob. I mean, from lockdowns, from 9 p.m. until 5:30 in the morning, and what's that all about? In the same sense, in Amsterdam, in late January, they instituted these lockdowns from 9 o'clock p.m. until 4:30, and people rioted. So, this people are, I'm telling you, that there's an underbelly that is not happy with what is going on worldwide with the tyrannical movements and lockdowns and masks and triple masks and quadruple masking. F off. I mean,
Matt, you know what? I got to tell you that I agree wholeheartedly that, gracefully too, at least in some places, the legal process has been working and the courts have been striking down these just sweeping orders by elected officials that think that there is no check and balance.
Even in the States, there was news yesterday that the legislative branch of the government in the state of Ohio voted down, basically they put in a new law that says your health, that the governor had been doing these types of lockdowns too, and they said no longer. Like, you can't abuse your power like that. That is not acceptable. You can't tell people what to do with their health. So again, you're right. The courts are still working. The legislative process is still working. Write your senators, write your legislative people in your local areas, and let them hear your voice. I mean, people forget. You have to do that. If you tell them what you want, and we all tell them what we want, they have to respond. I mean, and if enough of us are, dropping emails, and it's easy to find their emails, so drop them a note. You're a citizen. You're a taxpayer.
Matt, and this goes to a bigger picture thing that is going on right now. There's, obviously testimony going on about the whole Wall Street bets thing. And this is a trust issue, and it runs deep. And this tweet yesterday, I already knew this. All right. Amazon and these documents, internal company documents, reveal that Amazon favored big sellers on its India platform. I'm sure this hasn't happened in the USA, by the way. Right. Say no more, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. And they used them to maneuver around rules meant to protect the country's small retailers from getting crushed from commercial giants. Somewhat similar, Matthew, to lockdowns that said the Target can be open and the Walmart can be open, but all you small people, you need to shut your doors. I mean, trust is a huge problem in the marketplace, right? And then this other one, this was actually back from October, and I don't think we ever talked about it or I brought it up. There's so much content, Matt, that you have to pick and choose. But this one, a perfect example, back to the Wall Street bets thing and what's going on in front of Congress right now. Goldman pays $2 billion in corruption probe to avoid criminal conviction. So they did it. They could have been criminally convicted for what they did. You know what? Let's just pay $2 billion. We're sorry. We won't do it again. Yeah, sure you won't.
I don't recall, but I think the number that was lost was something like $6 billion. So they basically said, "Hey, we'll cut it in a third, and we'll pay you back a third of the losses that we, basically imposed on this strategy that they gave them." Interesting. I'm just thinking here out loud. It's the same people. The picture before was Modi in India, right, with Bezos. This is India, and guess who else used to hate Bill Gates, and now they're okay, even though he's killed 500,000 people in India with his past vaccines for polio, and he's paralyzed all these poor kids in India and Pakistan, by the way. Modi's come back around and said, "That's okay. We'll take your money, Mr. Gates, and talk nicely and keep going with your programs there too." So I find it interesting that all three of those stories are basically bribes going to India right now.
Matt, to a Wall Street bets, first of all, me and you are both in agreement that I don't think anything illegal was done. When you read the small print of anything that you do, like the exchange, your clearinghouse, they have all the power to do whatever they want when they feel they're at risk. And you sign the paper that says, okay. And so, they all should have known the game, the rules of the game on getting in is my feeling. It's almost like buyer beware when you trade. It's like, you got to understand that the rules are set up not for you to be able to take down the house. In Vegas, when somebody gets hot, they just close the table. They say, "Sorry, we're not going. This is gambling, but we're not gambling. You're gambling."
I've had it before. I've been late night, in Vegas, rolling with just a couple friends, and then we were the only people at the table, and we just were getting, we were betting against ourselves, betting crazy hard ways, and winning like crazy. And they finally said, "You know what? There's not enough people here. We're shut." I'm like, "Oh." Yeah, it was like $2,000 or $3,000 that we made. It wasn't, we're not talking.
Right. It doesn't matter though. The pit boss knows what his shift has done.
Correct. So
exactly.
It was cheap. It was cheaper for them to shut the table than keep paying the, assholes that were there just to, be assholes. So.
All right, man. I love this though. Wall Street bets lingo, diamond hands, refusal to sell a security. Paperhands, selling at the first sign of loss. Stonks, they only go up. I like this one. Tendies, chicken tenders. Like when I have a little different opinion of what I'm going to spend my profits on, and it surely isn't chicken tenders. To the moon, obviously, everybody knows what that is. Powell, Chairman Powell, YOLO, risk of significant portion of portfolio on one trade. All in. I'm
Yeah.
all in on GameStop, you know.
The
And it
only
reminded me of some of the fun lingo from the floor, Matt.
Yeah, that's good
And I
stuff.
want to share a few of those.
It sounds like hanging out with my 21, 19 to 22-year-old sons when they go get chicken wings at Bones. I mean, it sounds like what they're talking about.
Yeah, but maybe they've made $17 on Dogecoin so they can get some tendies. And I actually, you know what, by the way, I actually appreciate that. If you're going to trade Dogecoin, right, and you can make some money, please make some money, get out of the trade. Don't be a hodler. And
Yeah, by the way, did you see
chicken tenders?
Did you see the other, speaking of Wall Street bets and Robinhood, did you see the article in Bloomberg talking about Doge and how they're trying to figure out who's holding all the Doge right now? And they're suggesting that 29% of it is held by Robinhood in their internal trading accounts. So Robinhood,
dude, what a great thing. Like hold all the bags, right? And then get people to jump in on your pet rock scheme and trade it and be the bid offer. You know, you can just be the bid offer for a month and walk away with a giant pile of money.
How many coins are there in the Doge world? There's 22 million Bitcoins. How many are there on the Doge side?
I think it's unlimited. Honest to God.
Okay, so
I think it's actually infinity.
So 29% of infinity is a large number, is what you're saying.
Yes, yeah. It was a joke. The whole thing is a joke.
Right. But the point is, people are, they're still getting worked up about it, and they're still, I guess they have diamond. I got to check in what I say here. They have diamond hands. They're not paper hands. They have diamond hands.
Yeah, diamonds. You know, Matt, we used to say on the floor, ELB, Matt, ELB. We actually said it, and we didn't use acronyms and letters. We used to say, eat like a bird, shit like an elephant. And that is what you don't want to be doing as a trader, right? Little tiny profits, little tiny profits, little tiny profits. Hold the loser until they carry you off of the floor.
Yeah. Let's take a look at Doge. It continues lower as we talk about it here. Again, ramped up to 9 cents. The second peak there, sitting here today up 5%. But I get trading 5 cents, 5 1/4. So interesting to watch. But that thing looks heavy. Looks like it wants to continue to work through this. It'll probably get cut in half down to 2.5 cents. Give it a couple weeks, max.
Another one we used to talk about was the airport trade, Matt, and that was when before there was easily margin controls, when you could just go into a trading pit and do 1,000 lot,
right?
And you have $40,000 in your account, so you go do the 1,000 lot and then go to the airport, and then you call the floor on the close and see where the market is, and if it's a huge winner, you go back to your house. If it's a giant loser, you get on an airplane and go someplace and enjoy the rest of your life doing something else. Matt, I wanted to talk about this. It was shared inside the marketvitals.io network. It has been a publication that I'd never seen before. And that's the beautiful thing about belonging to a community, right? People share stuff. And this is a publication called Cannabis Confidential. We brought it in the show today with the little Marley. It's great the sharing is great because it makes you aware of other symbols and other stories that you're not particularly aware of. And so this one for sure, Matt, gave us some other plays in the cannabis stock. And by plays, we mean just things that you want to watch, right? The symbols that you want to watch, the stories behind them. It's tough to, on an infinite number of symbols in the trading universe. Sometimes it helps to be part of this a community where you can fine tune that discovery process. And so bring up a couple.
It's all about tightening up. It's all about tightening up your, kind of your process, like you said. And the quicker you can get the information and kind of, get to the price discovery based on some of the things that we're reading, then you can kind of try to make some decisions whether you want to behave, trade, not trade, et cetera. And one of the names that I think was brought up in there, I'm going to bring it up here, is the Jay-Z SPAC, right? Which is
and Joe Montana, by the way, the article stated.
And so Joe Montana, I guess, is an investor in this. And many people watching this think that Joe Montana is the GOAT. But I mean, even to me, Joe
But
Montana
he
was
couldn't
not
throw
even
the ball 30. I could throw the ball farther than him.
correct. And you were a running quarterback. And I agree with you. And the interesting thing about Joe Montana is he wasn't the GOAT even when he was playing, because to me, Terry Bradshaw was still a better quarterback and won as many Super Bowls in a row, by the way, with, and again, back in the day when those guys were, smoking Pall Malls and, drinking beer at halftime, right? So that's an athlete that can go out there and
I will
smoke
say
Pall.
this about Joe Montana. There's not many people that put the ball in the spot for the receiver to get yards after the catch better than him. And he will credit it to Bill Walsh, by the way. He would credit, he said Bill Walsh would absolutely throw a conniption fit if the ball was a little bit behind. He's like, what? I mean, he's like, no. It has to be right there so he doesn't have to break stride. You suck. That pass sucked. What the hell? Come on.
Yeah.
And so for sure, the precision is incredibly important.
So anyways, this Tipco, is it Tipco Holdings? They're
Yes.
SPAC. This thing, when it kind of got everybody, got wind, there was Jay-Z and Joe Montana did the typical, it went from where'd it go, from $10 up to 14. Then it came all the way back and did it again. But guess what? Again, this is the type of thing that, okay, it came public just back here in October, and it did nothing until the news got out that who's behind it, right? That takes it up, and then it comes down. You had a great opportunity to buy at a below market price here, below the IPO, and now it's kind of back into below IPO again. So, as long as it holds 940 and we're trading 990 on a close, especially on a weekly close, this looks like probably a solid price discovery place to get long a little bit.
Well, for sure, I love it because you know where you're wrong. You're not going to ride it to zero.
So you could risk $1, give yourself an extra 50 cents down to 890, right? And that's so you're risking 10% total price action on the trade and trade accordingly. But again, new name to me, and I don't know what they're investing in. I haven't looked into how they're spreading their 150 million around like all these SPACs have. But it's a good play. It looks fine. And the space is going to grow. Kevin Durant, he's got his, 35 ventures, or I can't remember. It's some number that he invests through. He's involved in a lot of cannabis. Obviously, Kanye has been involved, I think, in some. Who else? Snoop Dogg has basically an investment arm that for example, is invested in a lot of the picks and shovels like Dutchie, which is a software play based here in Bend, right? And they're not public yet, but these guys have raised somewhere around 75 million already through those various venture arms that I just talked about, including but this one, hopefully you'll start seeing their names thrown into the case for who they're investing in.
Man, let me share for just a second on this.
Okay.
Because speaking of picks and shovels, I'm not sure that we've talked about this yet, but this is my favorite pick and shovel, Matt. The Geographics Bong. And I tweeted this out the other day, and I got a lot of responses to people finally reminiscing their 2, 3, 4 foot Geographics Bong. I had to see if they're still alive, right? And lo and behold, I don't know who owns graphics, the Geographics Bong, but speaking of picks and shovels, I think I need to get a Geographics Bong and see if they still work as advertised. Anyway, I had to bring that up. Let's talk about something else, though, because we're going to lead this. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one, Matt, but I just want to lead into a great article from Marty Armstrong about the climate debate, right? Global warming, which was actually global cooling. I didn't know that they wanted to get rid of combustion engines because of global cooling before combustion engines cause global warming.
Again,
it's true. It's a fact. You can check it. You can check this out. You can look it up. A great article. Highly recommend Marty Armstrong, right? Armstrong Economics. And I've been saying forever that we did more in this country with an Italian playing an Indian with a tear streaming down his face as he looked at a garbage-filled pond or lake. And maybe this is a better tack towards cleaning the air, right, Matt? Because air pollution has contributed to 6.7 million deaths in 2019. Maybe air pollution should be the driving force regionally, right? Anyway, this isn't neither here nor there. What I wanted to emphasize is that a commodity super cycle possibly spurned by cooler than normal temperatures over the next several years, and also policy that is going to drive energy prices seemingly through the roof is going to have an effect not just on those commodities that we've talked about over the past several months, right? Grains and natural gas and heating oil and crude oil, gas for your car, even electricity rates. But that also then has there's a conduit effect to the price of currencies. And let's talk a little bit about not just the dollar index, Matt, but these commodity-based currencies that benefit from the commodity super cycle. And if you want me to share and start off, and then you can come back. The one I wanted to point out. Hold on a second. Man, am I having trouble today?
By the way, as the Reddit boys, hit DC with their lingo, new lows as we speak, trade in the 43s, just continuing.
Wouldn't it be great if it goes to like, $6 today during the testimony? Is anybody still holding? Any more trading in GameStop? Any more trading in GameStop? GameStop closed. Let's just close the market. It's over. Thank you.
And then I saw our boy Davey Boy. He tweeted yesterday that he rode in the elevator with the guy from Melvin Capital.
Yeah, I did see that. You said we had words. Yeah, the words were. And here's the funny thing, because Dave is an expert at sports and sports gambling, right? And he understands all the nuances of it. And my point to him is, dude, you played a game that you didn't know the rules of, and,
right.
and you lost huge. It's that at least take that responsibility.
No, he can't. But that's the problem. Like he's just young enough. He's in the older end of that generation who does not take responsibility. So you're right.
I mean, here's the funny thing though, that he understands that if I said, listen, I want my money back because the bet didn't cover, he'd be like, hey, shut the fuck up. What do you mean you don't get your money back? This is sports gambling. You lose means you lose. You buy a stock at $450 that's worth $7 and it goes back to $40. You should still save the $33, right? And sell at $40. And let's talk Canadian dollar, because for me, the ones that are important on the commodity side play, the Canada, the Aussie, right? The Mexican peso, we'll talk about that one too. I spent several years trading Mexican peso futures because these are commodity-driven currencies and they benefit from a commodity super cycle. So interesting to me here on the weekly here, we've spent now pretty much all of 2021, the latter half of 2020 and the beginning of 2021 above all of 2020's value range. You see that there on the weekly. A little bit of sideways action recently, but what I want to point out is the monthly. And again, a longer term arc fractal. And for me, this is more telling, right? Now we have 4 months in a row in up momentum on the monthly and expanding potentiality to the upside. So if there's a commodity super cycle, for me, the Canadian dollar is one thing that benefits from it. And as we talk about dollar index, the dollar index can probably rally, but there's going to be a lot more alpha in these commodity-based currencies than just being long the dollar.
Sure.
And why don't you take it away and tell me what you think about the Canada, and then you can go on to the Aussie and maybe the peso, and then I'll jump back to it.
Okay. Yeah, I think I think the dollar has it has some room to go to the upside. So that goes against a lot of things for me. But the thing, as far as the Canadian, can you see my chart okay there, Bob?
Yeah.
So, looking at the Canadian dollar, again, I was looking at this as an 89-minute chart. I think, short term here, it looks pretty heavy. It looks pretty toppy, and I've been talking about this. And in your chart there on the weekly, it was bullish for sure, right?
Yeah.
But within reason. Like, I don't see it really getting out here above 82, and we're at 78, right? And just the fact that they're, the Canadians have already said they've killed the currency. Like they're going pure, like the paper is going away. So this one's a little tricky because I don't.
Yeah, I agree with that. Except he can say whatever he wants in Ottawa. There's still, it's a commodity based country. I mean, oil,
right.
Timber.
Yeah.
The prairies with their grains.
Yeah.
It's a commodity base. Like nobody wants to get the country's not going to survive on tourism to Montreal and Ottawa. You get your head out of your ass. You're a commodity based country.
You can't even cross the border right now, so that's for sure.
Exactly. What about the Aussie?
Let's take a look at the Aussie. And again, all these have been in bullish. And this is, again, a long-term weekly chart. And they're all kind of the same, Bob. They're all kind of pushing up to the top end of this. And this is why I've been suggesting it. It's probably not a great time to, be fighting against the dollar on its own. And all these, ultimately, we're not talking pairs here, but these are the same price. They basically trade as if you were trading, the Forex, but it's the same idea. It still has to do with what is going on with the dollar. And the dollar is still the reserve currency today. So again, you're going to see pretty much the same charts. The euro had its rally and, ran up to 123. And again, it's probably the most traded out of all these because it's the biggest market. So, but you can see right where it stopped again. It kind of stopped in the top of the broader profile here. And this is not, to me, I don't know. Again,
well, here's my thought is that the dollar, and again, this is a broad stroke. Like if there's a commodity super cycle that lasts a couple of years, and when you look at the wheat chart and you look at the oil chart, these things, it's not a 1 week and it's done. Right? It's over several months and years that these things play out. Right. So the dollar can actually do great against the yen and the euro and places that need commodities, right? And do worse against those commodity currencies that are actually exporting and harvesting commodities. So that's what I'm talking about, the nuance of it. Yeah, the dollar is going to do well, but you might be better. And same as we talk about in crypto, like, is Bitcoin always the best place to hold it? Well, I'm going to let the chart let me decide on if there's a better alpha story other than holding Bitcoin. So, and that's my point here. Is holding the dollar right? Yes. Is maybe holding the Canada instead of the dollar better, or the Aussie instead of the dollar better? By the way, they're all dollars. You notice that one.
And then the other one, you talked about it because there's a lot of oil, obviously, in the Norwegian region, and I'm a poet.
The kroner, never traded it, but it's
this is the pair, and again, they've all had the same bounce from the March lows. Everything again, we talk about all these asset classes here all the time, and I can't say this more than just by going through this exercise. All assets are one right now, Bob.
It's unreal.
Everything bottomed in March of 2020 when the flu was at its peak, right? And then they started pumping the fake money, and we've never stopped since. So we've got a year rally after a 10. I mean, when was the last time we sold off 08, 09? I mean, we're on a 13-year run right now, Bob. It's
right on.
In my 35 years, we've never come close to that. It's usually 2 to 4 years, you get a normalized 20%, 30% sell off, which is healthy. Now you just go up 500%, every year, and when it falls, man.
All right, Matt, back to this. Bring me back live, so people can see this chart better. And this is just another add-on to all of the bells and whistles and pings that are going off on the radar screen. This is the Buffett indicator, value versus historical trend since 1950, and a major blow off top here on this chart, seemingly meaning that the market is way overvalued versus a historical trend.
Tell us what the left the axes are indicating.
I wish I could, Matt, but I can't. All I know is I look at that chart, it looks toppy to me, and it looks blow off toppy to me. And now you got Warren Buffett. Yesterday, what did we have? We had the gold platinum. You got earnings, price to earnings. You got cycles, right? Everybody's talking cycles. Armstrong loving cycles also.
Hey,
Just a
Bob,
lot of things, Matt. And let's talk the spoos in particular.
well, getting back to our theme about the trust thing, what do you think about this headline? CNN and NBC each paid an anti-Trump Capitol rioter $35,000 for his footage. He was embedded. What do you think about that?
Well, here's the problem with it. People pay for footage all the time, but prove that he was embedded, you got a story. And I can't, please, can we have some, fuck the GameStop testimony. I'd like to see some other people on the record talking about other things. Let's talk spoos though, because there are a few crackings, a little bit of crackings. I don't know if it's the beginning of this meltdown or actually come back down to earth type trade. I mean, it's been pretty much rinse and repeat, just buy every break, climb every mountain, buy every break. We need a little Sound of Music here.
Yeah, again, 39.60 was our high, basically 39.59.60 right in that area. And yeah, we're coming into a hole here where we can move pretty quickly, Bob, down to 38.55. That's really the next level. And that was the old high before we failed there. So, and again, that lines up with the profile very nicely. I mean, you can see where the holes are, you can see where the strong hands are, point of control. And this is basically a 3-month chart you're looking at. So a little longer time frame, which I prefer. It rolled over. I mean, this clearly, and I talked about this a couple of days ago, I've got some proprietary indicators that I use that you see the simple red and green lines. It changed a couple of days ago. And just basically you want to play from the side of the color. So you want to play from the short side, meaning sell rallies. It's not really the time to be buying. How's that?
And then, for me, when I look at the meat of that profile, how just, it's an impressive profile.
I mean, it's bullish.
And for the bulls, it's above that, right?
Yeah, it's bullish all the way down to 3,700. You can argue, right? And as long as you stay above that level. But the short term is that's 180 points lower, right? And we could easily go back and see that 3680 level. How many points is that? That's that's 280 points, Bob, which is not, it's like 7%. It's not even a big move anymore. I mean, you got to remember 40 points is a 1% move today at 3,900, right? So 1% is, and we're barely, and by the way, the opening hour today, which I always got, is a big indicator for me. I want to see how wide and how volatile the market is. We had one of the biggest opening hours that we've had probably in the last month this morning, and that was 25 points. Still not a big deal, but the first hour we moved from a high of 39.05, and then we went down to 80. So that's 25 points. It's not, we're still, there's not a lot of VIX is up, and we talked about that, buy that cheap last week, and that's worked out to be a great trade. So the volatility is peaking, but we haven't had any crazy spikes yet.
No, for sure. And there's not been, there hasn't been a sustained break where the sellout every rally, where rallies just get punished. Like, thanks for buying them again. And we haven't seen that yet for sure.
The AD has been negative the last couple of days, as you would expect, with red prices on the board. Bitcoin down a little bit, today.
Wait, you know what, Matt? Let's talk a little crypto. And to do that, we're going to bring in the segment, man, crypto. Crypto After Dark, Matt. I do some of my price discovery at OKCoin. I had another conversation yesterday. Funny story. I talked to a guy that joined the network from Thailand, interested in crypto. And I explained to him that part of the problem with crypto is there's not like the New York Stock Exchange where all of the stocks are traded, or the NASDAQ, where you can get most of them. And you only need to be, affiliated with one point of contact, right? You're trading, you're clearing broker, and you can trade all of them. difficult in the crypto environment because coins are hosted and traded on multiple exchanges and sometimes exclusively to that exchange. Anyway, I talked to the guy, Dan. Welcome to the Market Vitals Network, Dan. And we talked for a good long time. And then I got a text from T-Mobile. Thanks for the $99 long distance bill. I mean, I haven't been shocked from a long distance bill. Like, I didn't even think about it. I didn't even think about the international rate that was going to get jammed in my Peter Schiff. And it's unbelievable. Anyway, I think we just hashtag that. Like, your asshole is now, just call it Peter Schiff. Right? We could solve that once and for all. I got the long distance charge shoved in my Peter Schiff. Anyway, we talked about this briefly yesterday, Matt. MasterCard launches prepaid card for world's first central bank digital currency in the Bahamas. I don't know if it's first. I mean, I thought the Chinese had their digital currency going, so we can argue about that or not. And we talked about how the fiat world is not going to just roll over and say, all right, you crypto guys, you won. See you later. And so when you see, giant corporations like MasterCard saying, all right, let's do this digital thing. We'll create the digital currency from the Bahamas, the Bahamian dollar, which is pegged to the US dollar. Right. I think basically 1 for 1. It's interesting, Matt, and our boy Davey Portnoy on his rant about Bitcoin yesterday, and Bitcoin only goes up, and he doesn't believe in it. I think what he's saying is that the fiat world is not going to give up this fight without a fight.
No, and I've said this from day one. This stuff is never going to be the currency of any country or new world order if we get to that spot. It's never going to be. They will create their own digitized coin and call it, New World coin. But it's not going to be Bitcoin. It's just not going to work that way because those that control the levers of the machine, both monetary and fiscal policy, from FOMC to all the Federal Reserve banks across the world, they're all colluding. They're all flat out untrustable, and we know that. They're not part of a government.
So wait a second though. So that is actually, from my point of view, that's the dabble going on here. I don't think it's scary. I actually agree with you that it's a long shot, but I also think that a lot of people are throwing a lot of money at it as the hedge bet. And here's another thing too. Somebody posted hedge funds record short open interest in Bitcoin. All right. What you don't know is the rest of the story. I'm going to do a little Paul Harvey on you for you. There is a huge amount of money being lent in Bitcoin, right? Capturing a rate that hasn't been seen in the fiat world in a generation, right? 12 to 15% annually. So you own the Bitcoin, you sell futures against it, right? To hedge. So you have a zero and then you lend the Bitcoin out and get 15%. You have zero asset risk because you're short the futures. You're long the actual, and you just collect the 15%. And a giant part of the short is not hedge funds saying Bitcoin's going to zero. It's hedge funds saying, holy shit, look we can lock up 10% of our balance sheet here and get 15% interest on it. There's another story there. And it's always more complicated than climate change is driven by CO2.
No, it's a good point. So these guys are financing the birth and the resurgence of price, right? That's what you're saying, and I get it, and that makes sense. And there's no risk for them, even if it goes down. They got to get paid. So
I mean, they take their asset appreciation or depreciation risk out of the equation by hedging in futures, the transfer of risk, why futures were put on the planet, and they capture the rate. Now, the only problem with this scenario is counterparty risk, right? Somebody goes under, like, yeah, sorry, we were holding your Bitcoin, but we don't have them anymore. Oh, and by the way, you're short futures and the Merc wants their margin. Right. And it's a digital world. Who do you call? Right. I don't know. I wanted to point this out too. In our, and I was on the conversation last night to Thailand of a guy that's just starting to dabble in crypto. And again, we produce the sheets at marketvitals.io. And if you're not a big chart person and you just want some actionable levels, so something to make better trading decisions around, something not to hold something till it goes to zero. All right. The momentum levels, the value range, the point of control on a daily basis, these pivots and targets. And please join the network, marketfellas.io, and take advantage of some of these tools that I've been using for decades, Matthew, because at the end of the day, I mean, you're really looking just to fine tune your methodology of letting profits run and cutting losses short, rinse and repeat, ski, golf, bird watch, whatever the hell you like to do. But if you want to make a living sitting at the screen, and or if you want to be a better investor, these are the type of things and the methodologies you need to learn.
Hey, Bob, coming back to like kind of the markets and kind of what we're seeing, also the Russell, which we've talked about, has been a leader for a while here. And again, topped early this week again with another, test of that 2320 level, and is down, it's down $100, which is almost 5%. So this one's moving a little faster as it did on the upside. And by the way, this is just I've drawn some loose trend lines you can see, and as we zoom in, this is an 89-minute, but again, point of control, Bob, for the last 6 months is down here at 1,500, and we're trading 2,200. So, that's a 30% haircut just to get you back kind of into balance of where, kind of where the,
Matt, and I love the analogy of, you're an expert at something, what the value of something is. My mom, it was milk. So for some people it was my mom, it was milk and bread. Right. She knew when that was on the moon and we're going to powdered milk. And she knew when you need to buy a chest freezer because we're going to load that bitch with loaves of bread.
Well, with the Heffernan clan of 14, I mean, she had to be all
exactly. But everybody's an expert at something. How about the resurgence of trading cards, right? I mean, there's people that spent their childhood collecting and understanding the value of a card, right? And then going to trading card shows and seeing when there was prices on the moon, and actually holding and not selling their Barry Bonds card for $700, and then coming back the next year and it's at $45, and they're like, "What, am I, an idiot?"
Right.
and I just love that about the profile. That look at over time, if you were standing on the corner and they were hawking this whatever it is on the corner, and you went to that corner every day, you'd know when prices were way out of whack compared to what they usually are.
Right.
And I think the profile does that better than anything.
Yeah, and just looking at the monthly chart, right? So we went from a 6-month chart here, and we fractaled into a 1-month chart, which again, you're not a hyperactive trader trading this, but you can see pretty clearly that if we close below this level, kind of where we are right now, 22.15, this thing's got room to move another 100 points, to get to kind of that next jump off, which is down here at 21.50 or so. So just keep that in mind. And that's why you do fractal in and out, because it's not going to go to 1,500 today, Bob. And that's not what we're suggesting. But if you're in the market and you want to be in the Russell for the next 6 months, it probably is a likelihood that it could come down to those levels in the next 6 to 9 months, right? And that's a different type of positioning if you're a longer term trader. So it just depends on how active you are, how active you want to be. Do you want to micromanage? Like you said, do you want to sit in front of the con all day and do the counter trend against the major trend? And there's many ways to skin the cat in this game, and we're just trying to get you to think this way and think for yourself critically. And like we talked about earlier, I'm very bearish the bonds, but they're going up right now because they're just oversold. They just got to a level where they found some support and some buyers, and so what? So we go up for a while, and you take a break from the shorting until it goes up to a level that you want to re-short the bonds. Now, I'm not saying that we're necessarily over yet, but the high here, the last high, again, the 21.93, that needs to hold for sure. And if it does, and again, these trend lines are loose. I could have drawn it to this one too. So, I don't use trend lines. I
don't either, because trend lines are,
I rely more on this,
right on.
This is my meat and potatoes right in here. And this number sticks out in my crawl. I mean, it's especially once 2150 goes, like this is all those people. See, here's the way I explain it. It's a trap game. Markets are always trap games. They're trapping whatever the masses are. If they're all long, they're going to get trapped. If they're all short, they're going to get trapped. GameStop is a perfect example of what happens when there are people trapped on the short side and the long side. You saw both.
Yeah, exactly. I
You
mean,
saw
how many newbies piled in over $100 and cannot
right.
believe?
Yeah, and they're all bagged. They're bag holders, and this is how they play the game. They take it up, and then when there's no buyers left, whoosh, bye-bye, night-night. And that guy from Melvin Capital, like you said, you don't hear anybody talking about, how he's down 30%, because I guarantee he's up 70% now. Davey doesn't know that either, but he's done fine. These guys killed it and are continuing to kill it. They got their borrows, they put on their options trades. There was plenty of options liquid. These guys are killing it right now, Bob.
Not only that, man. I mean, I held a deck in several pits over 25 years on the floor. And when you hold the deck and you see where all the orders are, it's a pretty big advantage. I can say without question, I'm a better trader when I'm in a pit where dual trading is allowed and I get to see the book. I mean, it's almost not fair. You know what? You're right. It is. It's not fair to be able to see the book. And that's what they're paying for. They're paying for order flow, which is like a coupon, right? They get to ping the middle, be the bid offer, never lose any money, right. Making the market. And then they get to build the algorithm that puts together the book to see where they can squeeze, where they can put money together to squeeze. And that's the game, folks. That's the game. That's the game.
Another interesting chart that I wanted to throw up here, Bob, is just a NASDAQ transportation index, not the Dow, but I think that, because this is more unicorn related and moving around chips and all that. This, again, very loose trend line from the low again in March, everything bottom, every asset, everything, and this is an index, right? So transportation, NASDAQ stocks. This looks, again, it's had 3 or 4 breaks of the trend line here, and it's battling, right? We just hit another new high here this week, as everything did so far. Again, when we open Tuesday, that so far is the high of the year. And, this thing looks a little heavy again. It's rolling over. The reason why there's no price discovery is because these don't trade. These are just indices. So, but you get the idea. We've gone from 3,100 up to 6,000, let's call it. So it's doubled. It's doubled in the 10, 11 months, Bob. And, this is something I watch also. These are other, you can trade options on them, but this is something that I watch for a bigger picture of what's going on in the world.
All right, Matt, I think we cooked this goose today. A great show. Please join the network, marketvitals.io. The sheet available free every day. There's a short course in there about trading profile and trading standard deviation and pivot modeling. We're here to help.
One more NASDAQ name, because again, I like to bring up the unicorns, and this is a software company, and we've talked about it before, Fastly. And remember when it was down here at 60, I said it was probably a good buy. It doubled, and now when it got up there, I was like, it's probably a good sell again. And sure enough, look at this thing, got hammered again today. It's been getting hammered, and in less than a week, again, Bob, this stock is down $40, which from 120, 122 or so, you're again talking a 40% move. And so be wary. We keep saying this, but if you have profits in some of these crazy unicorn stocks, take them, please. And if you don't want to play the short side, that's your prerogative, right? You don't have to be both long and short. I prefer to play both sides. And we're kind of getting back into the balance again here. So maybe at 74, you dip your hands in again, but this is a $9 billion market cap on a relatively new software company that is selling SaaS software for whatever.
It's Fastly being shoved up my Peter Schiff if I'm wrong.
But more importantly, if you look at a daily chart, Bob, this thing it's really in trouble, right? So we're factoring out, and it only started trading in June of 19. So you have a short time frame here, but this entire picture now is not looking as strong. In other words, there's zero price discovery down to the point of control. Correct. Last summer, it was new, and it was going to do what it did, and then it broke. Now it couldn't make that new high again. I'm going to say put a fork in it, based on what's going on with the lack of jobs, and I think they do a lot of HR type, SaaS software for that type of thing. And I think I looked at it at one point, and I think that's kind of what they do. So, anyways, that's this
Dude,
is
I love our show because if somebody asks you fundamentally, what does this company do? Like, I don't know. It's just like back in the day, my brother actually brought soybeans from our farm in Northern Illinois onto the trading floor into the soybean pit and was showing them to traders like this, you know, $5 if you can tell me what that is. Like 80% of the guys didn't know what a soybean looked like.
right.
I don't know. Black eyed pea? No, idiot. It's a soybean. All right, Matt. Thank you so much.
Idiot.
Please share the video. Please share it far and wide. And we will see you again tomorrow on another segment of Market Vitals.